Hi, Greyhounds. Alrighty, here we are with the start of our first E-Day for the year. And so I'm going to have a couple of installments of a brand new book, which also happens to be a Young Hoosier chapter book nominee this year, The Dog Who Lost His Bark. And it's by Ian Colfer, who is also known for a series of longer chapter books. And it's also illustrated by P.J. Lynch. So the deal with The Dog Who Lost His Bark, I love it. And I hope you do too. But it's about a boy named Patrick who has always wanted a dog, and his dad has never let him have a dog. He says he's allergic to it. And so his dad is away right now in Australia. So Patrick thinks it's the perfect time to adopt a dog. But the dog he sees at the pound is a little puppy that a young dog, still a puppy. The manager of the pound tells him that I would not adopt this dog. I mean, you're in for a world of work because this dog has been abused and abandoned, and he won't even come out of his cage at the shelter. Patrick is bound and determined that this is the dog he wants. So without further ado, The Dog Who Lost His Bark. Chapter 1. I'm going to show you every now and then there are illustrations. So, look at the illustration of all the puppies. Chapter 1. The loud man called him dog, or pup, or mongrel, but mostly dog. Whenever he heard the loud man's boots plodding downstairs or smelled his sour smell, Dog hid far from the door, inside the pile of wriggling fur that was his brothers and sisters. Behind the nippers and scratchers, underneath fur bellies and wagging tails, but not near Biter. Biter loved to bite, and not just playful nips like the other little ones, but big chomps that made Dog yip and whine. This was not awesome at all. Sometimes Mother lifted Biter gently in her jaws and moved him away from the others for being not awesome. But Biter never stayed away for long. Dog found a way to deal with the problem. If Biter came close, he would stick his snout out in his brother's ear and bark, yip, yip, yip. 3 barks. The noise inside Biter's ear made him dizzy, and he would run in circles for a while, then fall asleep. Mother licked Dog when he discovered this trick, and this was excellent. People came to the door to see the puppies. They brought outside smells inside on their shoes and clothes. Dog's mother explained the smells with licks, barks, and growls. This smell was grass. That smell was rain. And when the people from outside pointed at one of Dog's brothers or sisters, that puppy would be lifted out of the basket by the loud man. The people would give the loud man crackling paper, and then the puppy would go away with them and never come back. This made Dog sad because he did not want to leave his mother like they had, so he hid behind her when people came. Dog's mother sniffed him and knew by his scent that he was sad. She told him not to be sad. Don't worry, she said. Someday your boy or girl will come, a human who is right for you. And that human, and first I want to show you illustration of the pup who is called Dog right now with his mother, who is now talking to him about getting, I don't want to say adopted at this point, taken by a human. And that human will take you to the wonderful outside. That is the best thing for a dog. Dog did not stop being sad entirely, because no matter how perfect the human was, he would still miss his mother. But now he was hopeful too, so he stopped hiding behind his mother when people came. If she said there was a human who was right for him, then there must be, and that boy or girl would bring him outside. Later, Dog was taken outside, but only to the yard while the loud man cleaned the room with his mops and brushes. The yard was covered in flat stone with only a little grass poking through the cracks. There had been a flower in a pot too, but Biter ate it. That Biter. Dog longed for the real awesome outside, beyond the yard, and even though he was still a little afraid of people, he knew they would take him there, so he stopped rolling himself into a ball when they came to look in the basket. Soon there were only 2 pups left with Mother. Biter and Dog. Some of the small people had pointed at Biter, but he always tried to bite them, and they didn't know the awesome trick, so Biter was dropped back into the basket. And there's a picture of someone lifting Biter out of the basket, and look, he's biting, and look, Mother and Dog are watching. Remember I told you that Patrick goes to the pound, but this isn't the pound. This is a basket of puppies. So sadly, I'm going to read the part about beginning of Dog's life is not good at all. I don't think it's the boy or girl of his dreams who takes him. Just got to get through that. One morning when the bright sun was in the window, two people came to see the puppies, a man person and a lady person. The lady pointed to Dog. Dog smelled the loud man's hand coming, and he was afraid, but the loud man was pretending to be nice with the other people. Pretending smelled like the burned food that the loud man sometimes scraped into their food bowls. The loud man lifted Dog gently out of the basket and handed him the lady person. They don't sound too bad, do they? They gently lifted him up. The lady person smelled like flowers and not burning food, and Dog hoped that everything would be awesome if he went away with these people. The puppies soon found out that everything would not be awesome. It would be bad. Chapter 2. I hope it's not too bad. The lady person put Dog in a box with some holes in the side and straw for him to sleep on. But the box was so tiny that even a small pup could not stretch out his paws. Not awesome, thought Dog. But he forgot this when the box was carried upstairs, and outside he smelled the whole world. Oh, the smells! Smells to wrinkle his nose and make him cough. Smells so strong that Dog could taste them on his tongue. Dog was so excited that he barked and barked until the man person slapped the box with his hand, which made Dog's head ring. He stopped barking. They went on a journey in the belly of a machine that rumbled and shook. And this was a new thing, so Dog couldn't tell whether or not it was awesome. The machine journey ended with some clicking and then a squeak. Is it a car? Is it an airplane? Something he doesn't know about. He's inside that box. Dog thought that maybe now the people would let him outside in the world, where he could feel many new feelings under his paws and chase things that were tricky and fast. Dog did not know exactly what the tricky things were, but he felt they were out there and he was supposed to catch them. But the people did not let him out. Instead, they left him in this box inside the machine, which puffed, then went slowly to sleep, leaving Dog cold and hungry. Cold, hungry, and sleepy. When the puppy woke up, he was in a new inside place. He could smell something that he just knew was a tree. He had smelled trees before, usually when the smell sneaked in through the open doors or on people's hands, but not this one. This one was close by. A tree inside? Thought Dog. His mother had taught him that trees could only be found under the sky and were for peeing on. To have one inside seemed strange, but also awesome. Here's an illustration of when he was in, looks like a car, and the man slapping the box. And then they must have kept him in the car for a long time. And now there's the tree. Think Christmas tree? I think you're right. I think so. So he's excited. He's hoping for some awesome. I hope for some awesome for him. Dog was poking his nose through an air hole to get a better sniff when suddenly the inside place exploded into noisy life. Dog heard a loud squealing and the bump, bump, bump of a young person coming downstairs. When the loud man from before had come downstairs, the bumping had been much slower. But this young person was in a big hurry. The squealing grew louder and louder, and Dog was afraid but also excited. The young person did not smell sour. It smelled of milk and warm blankets. Milk, thought Dog, remembering how hungry he was, and he barked the word, milk, milk. The young person pulled the lid from Dog's box, and the puppy saw a boy with a wide mouth and orange freckles. His hand came down and whisked Dog into the air. The boy swung Dog around and around, laughing all the while. The puppy saw he was in a yellow room with soft chairs and a tree, which was covered in lights and had a star on top. The light stretched as Dog whooshed past. Around the boy stood the bigger people who were clapping their hands and singing. Maybe, thought Dog, maybe this is going to be awesome. Maybe this boy is my boy. He barked the words, my boy, my boy. Well, this sounds hopeful, doesn't it? There's the boy swinging him around, laughing. Maybe we'll just get to the great part and there won't be any sadness at all in this book. Think so? Let's see. But the smiling boy took no notice. Instead, he put Dog down and made people sounds at him while the big man tied a strap tightly around Dog's neck. Sit was one sound the boy made. Beg was another. The boy made these sounds again and again. When Dog did nothing but pant, the boy made a longer sound. Stupid Dog was the sound. And the smiling boy stopped smiling and twisted his face in a way that reminded Dog of the loud man. Stupid Dog, said the boy. Stupid Dog. Dog whined a little to show the boy how not awesome the sound was. The boy obviously did not get Dog's message because he made the sound again. Stupid Dog. Makes me so mad, doesn't you? This time the boy poked Dog's ribs with his finger. The puppy whined louder. Rib pokes were sore, and Dog thought, this is not my boy. He tried to escape the boy's poking finger, but he was trapped against the back of a chair. All the people were laughing now. Why would they laugh about that? It seemed they enjoyed the boy's game. They laughed even louder when the boy lifted Dog by his tail, and Dog felt as if his tail would tear off. Then he would be a dog with no balance. He would never run fast in the big outside or jump to the sky. What could he do? The poking boy put his face close to Dog's and made the mean sound. Stupid Dog. Dog saw the boy's ear and remembered his awesome trick for dealing with Biter. He did not want to use his special trick, but he could feel his tail beginning to rip. So Dog shoved his nose into the boy's ear and barked, yip, yip, yip. The first thing that happened was good because the boy let Dog's tail go. But the second thing that happened was bad. The boy cried and howled louder than Biter ever had. The boy howled and fell over into the tree that was inside. Then the tree fell over and the lights went out, and Dog could hear the boy still howling under the tree that was inside. The big man made a sound. Oh my gosh. And he lifted Dog and threw him into a small, loud room with two square monsters that had twinkling eyes and circle mouths that went round and round and round. So I don't blame him for barking at the boy. And there's the boy knocking down the tree. So the man lifts him up and puts him in a room with two machines with circles. What kind of room do you think that is? I think maybe a washer and dryer, a laundry room, and they just shove him in that. And they all laugh when the boy picks him up by his tail. What kind of family is this? Oh, the humanity. I think we're right about the washing machine, if that's what you thought too, because that's where he's thrown. Dog stayed in the room for a long time and never even saw the awesome outside. The people gave him food, but Dog knew that it was not good food because often the food made Dog sick, and other days the food was so hard that he had to gnaw it off the bowl with his teeth. Sometimes the lady person gave him good food, and other times the water was not clear, but Dog was so thirsty he drank it anyway. The floor was red and white shiny squares, which were slippery, and whenever the lady person came in, she would shout the sound, stay, stay, which Dog learned meant no moving, which was difficult for a cold puppy on a slippery floor. If he did move, there was no food, and even though the people hardly ever fed Dog, they fed the square monsters with clothes and blankets every day. When the monsters were finished chewing, they would sleep, but even then Dog was afraid and would sleep as far away from them as he could. He made a space for himself behind the mops and brushes and would peek at the monsters from between the handles. What a terrible start for him. They barely fed him, and he's a puppy scared in there by himself all the time. I can't take this book. I'm not sure I can read this. I guess if I start, I must go on. I can't just leave you there, can I? I'm going to show you the top part of this illustration. There was no special corner to do his business, so Dog went on some paper that he found on the floor. He remembered from his time in the basket that people went berserk if a dog pooped or peed on the floor. Biter had often peed over the rim of the basket, and the loud man would chase him with a mop, shouting loud words. Every few days, this man person wrapped up the dirty paper and took it away, so it seemed to Dog that doing his business on the paper was the right thing to do. Then one morning, Dog slipped on the paper and everything went everywhere, even under the door. Dog whined because he knew the people would go berserk, but he could not have guessed how much. The lady and the man both shouted at him when they saw the mess. Bad, stupid dog. Over and over they shouted this sound. Then they shouted at each other, long sounds, and in between their legs the boy danced and shouted, poo-poo dog. And it was this sound that made the man person hop with rage. Dog cowered in his mop fort. Even the loud man had never been this angry. The man person shook his fist at the boy and pointed at everyone. Then he swept aside the mops and brushes, reaching in to grab Dog. He tore up the top layer of the floor too, the red and white squares, ripping it out from under the sleeping monsters. He rolled it into a tube, then yanked Dog up by the collar and stuffed him inside it. The boy said, "Bye-bye, stupid poo-poo dog." Dog never saw him again. The man drove his rumbling machine far away from the poking boy. It was nighttime, so Dog couldn't see much through the tunnel of red and white flooring, just orange lights that seemed to float in the sky. The machine stopped in a quiet place that smelled of rotten food and plastic. The man was making angry noises, though there was no person there to understand. He lifted the floor tube out of the machine and rolled it down a hill onto a patch of grass. Dog fell out shivering. At last he was outside, but it was not awesome at all. This was not the way he had dreamed it would be. The man stood at the top of the hill. "Stay," he said, "quiet." Then he turned and took his machine away. And Dog did stay, and he didn't bark. Barking meant no food. Barking meant big trouble. He stayed for a long time. He did not bark, but there was no food anyway. Oh my goodness. That man should be arrested, don't you think? He dumped him. Looks like he dumped him at a dump. It makes me cry. In fact, maybe the first time I read this, that was the first time I cried in this story. And he's not barking, so he can't let anyone know he's there because he thinks no food if I bark. Oh, Chapter 3. Patrick Cohen's granddad always said that Patrick was a great man for questions. I'm hoping Patrick is not this boy the boy of the dad who abandoned him. I'm hoping it's the Patrick, the good Patrick. This was especially true when something was puzzling Patrick, and there was something puzzling him now, as he sat beside his mother in the car on the drive to the city. Why are we going to Granddad's for the whole summer? His mother jumped a little, which was what she did when she was miles away and thought. You know why, sweetie, a vacation in the city. We go every year. Not for the whole summer. Because we were invited, and I'm helping your granddad out with the music lessons. The extra money will come in handy. Before I read further, I want to show you the illustration. There's Patrick. He looks concerned. And there's his mom driving the car to the city to his grandfather's. Patrick was from a musical family. Mom taught piano. Granddad was a cello teacher. Patrick played the violin a little, and his dad was a fiddle player in a country and western band that traveled all over the world. Wow. So I guess the band's pretty famous that he plays for. Why isn't Dad coming? You know why, Patrick. Dad is on tour in Australia. He was in Australia at Christmas and last summer. Mom snorted. Your dad's popular in Australia. Really popular. It's interesting the way she says that, popular. After Australia, will Dad be coming after Australia? I think he has some more gigs booked for afterward. There was talk of New Zealand. He didn't say anything to me about more gigs. Dads don't always tell their sons everything. Dad always tells me about his tours. Well, there's a first time for everything. So Dad is not coming to Granddad's at all now for definite? He said he might make it in August. I don't think so, Patrick. We're on our own this time. We can do it, can't we? We can, but I don't want to. Can I call Dad? Honey, it's nighttime in Australia now. Call him just before bed, and we'll be fine at Granddad's. Patrick knew they would be fine. Granddad's was his second most favorite place in the world after home. But we're a family, aren't we? Granddad's family, too. I know, but not level 1 family. Can't Dad come for even a few days? Dad usually organized a project for them both when they spent vacations at Granddad's. Last year, they had built a go-kart with working brakes. Mom sniffed. Apparently, he can't. Patrick sent his dad a sneaky text. Dad, you are not coming to Granddad's? Call your only son. 4 frowny face emojis. That sounds serious. Then he got back to the questions. Why did you say Dad was really popular in that way? Mom didn't say anything for a moment. Then she blurted out, I've been thinking, how would you like to have a dog to keep you company over the summer? This stopped Patrick in his tracks. A dog? He could have a dog? Patrick had never been allowed to have a dog because his dad was allergic to everything. Dogs, of course, also cats, grass, dust, olive trees, orange peels. What about fish, Dad? Patrick had once asked him during a violin lesson. The only kind of scales I like are musical scales, Dad had answered with a laugh. Now practice yours, please. Patrick had begged for a dog. He promised that he would keep it in the garden shed and wear special playing with the dog clothes, which he would never bring into the house. But the answer was always no. And now he could have a dog just like that? Something was going on here. What about Dad's allergies? Mom had a question of her own. Do you want a dog or not? Patrick quickly nodded. He knew he was being bought off, but he really wanted a dog. He would get back to the dad questions later. Patrick could have any dog he wanted. Anyone you choose. That was what his granddad said when he drove them over to the local rescue shelter the next day. My only condition is that may be smaller than a pony. Granddad added, other than that, nothing is too good for my favorite grandchild. Wow, as long as it's smaller than a pony? That's any size dog then, right? Whoa. That was Granddad's little joke, as Patrick was his only grandchild. But he could have any dog he wanted. That part wasn't a joke. It was a dream come true. Patrick didn't have any friends in the city, but with his very own dog to play with, that wouldn't be a problem. And here's a sketch of him that day going to, looks like the pound, the shelter. At the rescue shelter, he could have chosen the Boston Terrier with its fighter's jaw, or the Pointer with its pointy face, or the Labrador with its coat like a field of barley. But Patrick studied each dog, then moved on to the next cage. He stopped in front of the last cage in the row. Perhaps he stopped there because it was the last cage and he couldn't go any farther, or maybe the small dog in the cage called out to him somehow. When Patrick looked at his dog, this dog, he felt that it was a potential soulmate. And the little puppy seemed lonely. And look at who the puppy is. It's Dog. Oh my goodness. Remember what all the dog went through. I know the feeling, buddy. That's not to say Patrick had no friends. There was this one special pal back home, Eric, but they wouldn't be hanging out until after the summer. So the truth was that Patrick had no friends at the moment. The dog saw him looking and curled into a ball, revealing a splash of white on his black fur. That looks like Australia, thought Patrick, remembering his dad showing the country to him on a map when he did his first tour there. Oz. That was how his dad referred to Australia. Oz, Patrick said softly to the dog, but the dog did not unroll himself. What's this one? He asked Zane, the attendant, who lived 2 streets away from Granddad and occasionally came over for a game of chess. It's a dog, said Zane. I'm kidding. This one is what we call a multigrain. He's got so many breeds in him that we can't identify them all. Terrier for sure. Maybe some poodle and a dash of dachshund, if I'm not mistaken. I want him, Patrick told his granddad. No, said Zane, trying to steer Patrick away. You don't want that one. This little guy needs extra attention. He's been through a lot. It will take a lot of one-on-one to bring him out the other side. You're a little young to take that on. Patrick stayed where he was. I want him, Granddad. You said I could have any one, and he's a lot smaller than a pony. I don't know, said his granddad. Your mom and I will be working most days. Dogs are a lot of responsibility. Maybe we should listen to Zane. I've known him since he was a puppy himself, and he wouldn't steer us wrong. The wise man speaks the truth, Zane said with a laugh. I am the expert. It's not that. It's not that I don't like this little pooch, I do, but he's got a way to go before he can trust a human. This poor dog's had a rough time of it. We found him half starved, abandoned on a dump site. I checked his microchip, and it turns out I know the dealer who sold him originally. Not exactly a prince, I can tell you. This little guy is so traumatized, he's lost his bark. It was no use. Zane could have talked all day, and Patrick would not have changed his mind, because he had seen the future, and the future had Oz in it. This one, he said, pointing at the puppy, and his name is Oz. Zane sighed. Sorry, neighbor, he said to Patrick's granddad. He's picked a name already. You're done for. He went off to fetch the paperwork for the puppy. Granddad smiled. I guess we are. He squatted so his head was level with Patrick's. Grandson and grandfather stared at the forlorn dog in the cage. Oz, huh? He said, Granddad, as in Australia? That's right, said Patrick. I bet Dad will like that name. Maybe, said Granddad, when he stopped sneezing. And so Dog found himself lifted from the cage and placed in a travel crate. Bad, he thought to himself. More bad people. And he decided to stay as quiet as he possibly could so that these new people would not punish him for things he did not know were wrong. Oh, and that ends chapter 3, where we're going to stop today. If you're like me when I first read this, I had to keep reading. And if you can't wait for the next installment, we've got several copies of this in the library, so check it out. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think for Patrick's up to the task? What do you think about the bad man and the son? What was going on there? Why'd they not give him a chance? What do you think about what they did? Any thoughts about the book so far or what you're reading? I would love to hear from you. You know my email, and it's right there on that screen if you got this from the slideshow, or maybe you got it from YouTube. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Oh, and I can't wait to read the next installment. Bye-bye.